Welcome back to another edition of Everything Football 62. I'm your host, Jonathan Big Tex Johnson. Consistently consistent at being great to consistently consistent at being average. That's what I'm going to talk about on today's show. You're asking, like, what are you talking about? Basically by the title. You have, and I've talked about this several times with my dislike of quarterbacks basically being overpaid for actually literally doing nothing but no more than just being a starting quarterback in the NFL or just being a quarterback in the NFL for that matter. And one of the things I want to look at, it's a fine line between being a average player to a good to great player, right? An all-time great, if you will. It's a fine line between that. And a lot of times it comes back to work ethic, what you put into it, film study, all of that. Whatever else it might be. It's quite a few different things that has to do with that. So what happens in these cases is you have these players, right? And I'm gonna deal with quarterbacks, and I'm gonna name out some quarterbacks. I'm gonna name out some players at all positions. All of them have the ability to go from being average to great, or an average player to a great player. So when you look at, it's about the work that you basically put in a lot of cases. So I'm saying all that to say is that because we've had a lot so far in this young season, we've had a lot of guys that pop up, and all of a sudden, man, they're good for a couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden we patting them on the back, and he's doing this, he's doing that. Oh man, he's doing this. The team is 2-0, 3-0, whatever, all that type of stuff. And like I said, with me personally, I don't really start taking a lot of credence until around the ninth week of football. That's when you start playing for playoff positions, in my opinion. That's just how I've always been. Consistently consistent at being great or average or whatever. Fine line. Now, just a couple of weeks ago, everybody was giving the praise to Ryan Fitzpatrick. Everybody knows Fitzpatrick has been in the league since around 2005. 13, 14 years, however long he's basically been in the league. He's lit it up. He's had some great games and whatever. It come down to earth there the other day, obviously against Chicago Bears, and we saw what happened with that whooping there. So Fitzpatrick come down to earth. Why is anybody surprised about this? Fitzpatrick is who Fitzpatrick has always been. And I think in 2015, if you will, I think it's 2015, Fitzpatrick was with the Jets. Fitzpatrick has been with several different teams, from the Rams to the Bengals to the Bills to the Titans to the Texans to the Jets, and now he's at Tampa Bay. And what does that tell you about Fitzpatrick? Fitzpatrick is a journeyman quarterback, right? Fitzpatrick best year as a pro, was basically in 2015. The team went 10-6. He threw for 31 touchdowns and had 15 picks. Did pretty good and whatnot. Fitzpatrick, like I said before, and a couple of weeks ago I did a show. Fitzpatrick can show you some stuff. He can show you, well, okay, I see it, and that's my point with this show. The fine line between being average and being great. You follow what I'm saying? And what happens in this case is that for your first 5 or 6 years in the league, if you haven't done anything on top of on that level, you are who you're going to be. So this should not be a big deal about Fitzpatrick coming down to earth, more or less. You follow what I'm saying? It should be not even be a surprise whatsoever. Fitzpatrick is who he always has been. He's an average NFL quarterback at best. Yes, as a quarterback that's been in the league for 13, 14 years, of course, he can give you a game. He can give you 5 games. Hell, he can even give you a season. But can he give you 3,900 yards and 30 touchdowns and 10 wins 4 or 5 years in a row? He's shown that he cannot do that. That's what he's shown. So he's consistent at being average. From Ryan Fitzpatrick to Sam Bradford. Sam Bradford has shown you since his rookie year, going 8-8, winning Offensive Rookie of the Year. Sam Bradford is consistent at being average. 48 games missed. That's equivalent to 3 years of football missed. And now he is stinking it up over there in Arizona, and has lost his starting job over there in Arizona based upon basically 2 games that he did at Minnesota. Okay? Consistent at being average. Nick Foles was 2013, one of them years when he was with when he was with the Philadelphia Eagles when they won the NFC East that year. He throws 27 touchdowns to 2 picks. The next season got hurt or whatever. I think he got hurt some games and everything like that. Ended up going to Rams, bounced around, came back to the Eagles, helped them out, won 2 or 3 games or whatever like that. Made the nice run in the Super Bowl, the playoffs to the Super Bowl, and then basically reverted back to the Nick Foles we all know who he is. Again, Nick Foles has been in the league 4 or 5 years. Nick Foles, he is what? He's consistently consistent at being average. This is what you're going to get from these guys. Kirk Cousins, consistently consistent at being okay at times. Look at his record though. Like I said, what is it? 26, 27, 31 and 2 ties. He's made almost $100 million in the past 3 years though. Consistent, that record, consistent at being Casey Keenum, free agent, all of that, bounced around, another journeyman quarterback. What is 11-3 last year, right? 11-3, played pretty good the other night and everything with Denver. He was 11-3 with Minnesota, got to the NFC Championship game. All of that. What has he basically done? He was 11-3 last year. He's 2-2 now. So he's won. They know they're gonna lose another game or so. So he's already gonna probably lose as many games that he set up there and lost last year. What has Casey Keenum ever showed you? That he's consistently consistent at being average. These guys, they can catch lightning in a bottle. Like I say, they can catch that. They'll give you a season. They'll give you some games. They'll give you 5 or 6 games. And like I say, they might give you a season. But can they consistently do these things? Ryan Tannehill, he is who he is. He's had an 8-5 year. That year that they went to the playoffs and whatnot, and he got hurt in the playoff game or game before the playoff. One of those years, back in 2015, I believe. They started out 3-0. Well, we seen what happened in them Sunday with the Patriots. You knew that was going to happen. There's still a chance that something might go on, but he basically is who he is. He's an average quarterback at best. Consistently consistent with being average. Jay Cutler. He's not even in the league no more. Jay Cutler has always been what Jay Cutler was going to be. Big arm, all of that stuff like that made a ton of money, and Jay Cutler was consistently consistent at being quarterback. This is what I'm talking about. Tom Brady, consistently consistent at being a great quarterback. Aaron Rodgers, consistently consistent at being a great quarterback. Peyton Manning, Drew Brees. You know, Manning doesn't play no more. I'm just naming these guys. You know, these guys were consistently great. From Dan Marino to Johnny, all of those guys consistent with being great. 10-6, 12-2, 14-2, 13. Those are the kind of records that these guys have accumulated. You follow what I'm saying? This is what they've done. This is what they've accumulated. And like I say, so a guy can give you the things. He can get a quarterback that's been in the system for a long period of time. I looked at Vinny Testaverde's stat. Vinny Testaverde played 20 years in the league. Vinny Testaverde, who I think was the #1 draft pick in 1987, didn't actually get it together until his 10th year. So out of 20 years, he basically had 2 or 3 decent years in pro that's worth even talking about, that he went to a Pro Bowl. Went 12-1 one year in 98, and about 2 years later, 2 or 3 years later, he goes 10-6 again with the New York Jets. But it took him from age 23, 24 to almost 33 years old to finally get it together. Finally get it together. But he was who he was. Consistently consistent at being an average quarterback at best for 20 years and held a clipboard and got some and made some nice money in a 20-year run. Some of you may or may not remember Javon Kearse, who played for the Tennessee Titans as well as the Philadelphia Eagles. He was a freakish player. They was calling him the freak. I want to say almost before Randy Moss, but it's calling him 6'5", 250 pounds, coming out of Florida and coming out of University of Florida. Sick, the body type, everything. The guy had full package and whatnot. Kearse comes in his first year, 14.5 sacks, Pro Bowl, Defensive Rookie of the Year. Come back the next year, 11.5 sacks, and then come back the third year, 10 sacks. Now after the first year of having sacks, someone asked Bruce Smith during the time, the great Bruce Smith, who played for the Bills, about what you think about Kearse and 14.5 sacks as a rookie and everything like this. It's good. He said, well, they'll know who he is by next year. So let's see what happens when he starts getting double teamed. And then you come back and talk to me then. After 99, 2001, from the rest of his career on, he never recorded another double-digit sack season. He never reached 10 sacks a season again. He got to 9.5 one time, but he never got 10 or 11 or 12. He never got the sacks what he did in his first 3 years. Again, a person who's consistent. He ended up being consistently consistent at being so-so. So we need to watch out for these players. The point, like I said, the whole point in this is just basically showing everyone that it's a fine line and that it's guys that put in the work and it's some guys that don't put in the work, and some guys, they are who we think they are, and that's who they're going to be. That's who exactly they're going to be. And in some players, they just don't put in the work and they figure, I got this, I'm going to do this, and they never get it. And they always still be good to average to whatever. You follow what I'm saying? And I go with a couple other quarterbacks I'm also named as well. Cam Newton and Matt Ryan. Consistently consistent at being very good. They haven't reached that great status yet because they haven't won a championship, in my opinion, or put together 5 years in a row of winning about 11 or 12 games a year. You got to win games in this league, especially if you're a top-notch quarterback. You follow what I'm saying? So that's just what I wanted to talk about tonight, real fast and whatnot. It's a fine line between it, and some of these players get it and some of these players don't get it. All right, I'll be back in a second.